But what does the economy look for? When you look at Vision 2030 and look at what this economy is looking for, we have a shortage in areas of engineering, and that's why we have a lot of colleagues coming in from China and others, kind of to fill that gap. We also have a shortage in medical and science related courses. And so we've created a situation where you have a country where there are people without jobs, and you have jobs without people, because there's a bit of that mismatch, that what we are training is not what the market is looking for. The other issue, of course, that we have also seen and they've been discussing this week is the area that if you really want to grow university education, you must grow the master's and PhD programs, because this is where our teachers come from. And one of the areas that we've seen is out of these 539, only about 55,000 are doing their masters, and about 7,000 are doing their PhDs. And even the 7,000 that we are doing PhDs, we only get about 400 graduating per year, which is less than 5% of those that are enrolled. So the issues we are looking at is what is it that is stifling progression rates, completion rates, especially for masters and PhD students, so that if you really want to, and as the chairman has said, numbers for undergraduate students has grown. The number of lecturers has not kept pace, because our rate of training masters and PhD has been too slow. So one of the things we are asking is, what is it that is in our environment that is stifling completion of PhD and masters, so that we can then catch up with the numbers.
So we have a challenge, especially when you're completing high school and you want to join college or university. There's usually forms that you fill out certain courses, and at the end of the day, you are given a course that you're going to do. It might not be exactly what you wanted to do as when growing up, or what you wanted to be when growing up. So when you're done with your graduate course, or undergraduate course in this case, then when you're pursuing maybe a postgraduate, you just want to do something different altogether, and that distorts the whole process of grooming or growing educated and specialized graduates at the end of it all. How do we ensure that this doesn't repeat itself going forward, and seeing that the shortfall we have needs to be bridged? Professor.
Oh, of course, there's also the question of the human right, that you are entitled to do what you really want to do.
Yeah.
But then we are saying that when we are in a developing country, our resources must be utilized properly in ensuring that we are building the human resource that will be able to support our economy in terms of growth, because that's also what will address the needs of, finally, of those students in terms of employability and so on. I think that's why we in the president, in approving, for example, the placement of 10,000 students into private universities supported by government, is definitely a part of the opening in terms of the choice, that we are not forcing students to do things they are not interested in, because the issue of interest is absolutely, and this also matches with both their internal skills and aspirations. And one is going to see much more of that happening, also with the actual placement board, and also the issue of dealing that all students don't need to also come to universities, because it's a very important middle level, which is now regulated by TVETA and not by the Commission. And it's a very important sector in building the necessary skills in the country. And the government is investing colossal sums of money to bring that field, because for many years it had been neglected.
Right.
So those are some of the reforms that are actually taking place at present in the higher educational sector, not only in the university sector.
All right. Doctor, from where you sit, I'm sure that there are certain strengths that you see, and you did mention that humanities and social science as well as business administration are the oversaturated areas. What areas do we need to grow now to meet the market demand? You talked about engineering, but what other areas do we need to grow to meet the market demand?
Yes, several areas at the university level. We definitely need to. If you look at the ICT sector, that is an area that is really both computer science, ICT, software engineering. For this country to go forward, as you realize now, everybody's trying to computerize. So really, we need to go there. The other area that we have missed, and this is a big one, is that for every one engineer, you need about 20 to 30 technicians. Now we are in a situation where we are neglected training at a TVET level. So what you find now, I was talking to a Chinese friend who is in construction, and he tells me that 90% of the people that are involved in construction in Kenya, plumbers, masons, electricians, have no training. So these are people that are being trained on the job. That means that we have neglected. And today, if you're looking for a plumber, for example, it is very difficult to get a good qualified person with papers and competence to go with. So I think that as we look at the whole sector, that we must realize that a doctor cannot work without a nurse. An engineer cannot work without a technician. So we need to look at the whole sector so that we build up skills. And we cannot all have, again, we have a bit of an issue in this country where everybody thinks you must have a degree. But then what we are saying is we need to move away from there so that we're not just having papers, but you actually have skills and competences that can enable you to work. Look at our mechanics.
When you put it that way, isn't it going to encourage students not to pursue, their degree courses just at the expense of, if I have the skills, I don't need to go to school?
Yes, you see, what we need is skills to solve problems. If you have a broken down car, you don't need a degree. You need the skills to repair the car.
True.
And if you look at our mechanics, how many of them have formal training? They're actually training on the job. So what we need in a country then is that we have a gap. And that gap is, let me tell you, a plumber will not even look for a job. A survey that has been done found that people who have done plumbing, masonry, electrical, they get their jobs less than 6 months after graduation because the demand is there. And so, but we are all chasing this paper called a degree. You have it, then sometimes you don't have the skills to match it, or nobody's looking for your skills. So we are saying, as a country, we have to balance. We're not saying people should not do degrees, but I think we have over-worshipped the issue of having a degree to a point where we have ignored important skills and the competences that wouldn't take this country forward. Because if you want to build a road, you need skills. You don't need papers.
That's true.
If you want to build an office block, you need skills. And so we need to balance between having papers and having skills that will then build this economy. I think that's what I'll say.
All right. Professor, you have actually launched a book this week. What is it about, and what do we need to know about what's happening in some of the reforms that you are going to at some point conclude and make recommendations on?
Yes, this week the Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Education, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, launched this book, which is on the state of university education in Kenya.
Let me take a look at it.
Yes, and in this book we have provided up-to-date data on university education. In it, we give all the students who are admitted into the universities up to this year, what skills they are doing, that is the degree works they are in, and both genders, we have indicated by gender. We have also included the staff who are teaching, what courses they are teaching, where they are teaching them, and also what skill levels they are at master's and PhD levels. We have also looked at postgraduate training, and by looking at that data, because we are saying that decisions made on any educational sector must be based on evidence, and evidence is actually up-to-date data. So this is the first time in this country since independence that actually data, up-to-date data on university education through actually research, because that's what we have conducted, and also working with the universities. We have produced this, and this is going to be produced basically every year. And also we have now instituted this biennial, this was the first conference, also on the state of university education, not just looking at everything, but looking at the university. And this is going to be held every 2 years to be able to bring to Kenyans really to know with actual evidence where we are in terms of education.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing part of the content is about graduation trends. But then again, let's talk about the cost of education. There are certain courses that are more expensive than others. And maybe that could also inform why certain students go out for the cheaper courses. And most of them actually fall in the arts. The science courses tend to be more expensive. So how do we encourage a balance that we are going to see more students doing sciences, not at the expense of it being expensive, but at the expense of it being an interesting course, one that is going to get value addition at the end of it all?
There have been reforms in this country starting from 2013 in even addressing the issue of the cost for university education.
Yeah.
First of all, acknowledging that the courses that are offered at the university cannot cost the same. And that also was approved by the president about 2 weeks ago, that we should implement differentiated unit cost, which means that those people who are taking medicine, as against those who are taking Bachelor of Arts, that those have been up to now, they are costed the same, 120,000 shillings. And this was since 1992. It has been a flat rate, whether you are taking medicine or you are taking the arts, which means, therefore, if you are taking medicine, there are some essentials which one would miss because of that level. And of course, we know that for those who are taking, for example, Module 2, they actually pay the actual fees. So we are charging different fees depending on who is doing that. This is now being harmonized. And as the president said, from next year, we'll implement the differentiated unit cost, which means that those taking engineering, universities offering engineering, which are called the STEM subjects, will get more money per student than those who are doing that. And that is also how to deal with the issue of choosing and supporting that where the skills that are going to build the economy are going to be furthered better than the ones which even you can choose, but then the government doesn't really have to invest in those skills.
All right. When there are students being admitted, say, at the master's level, are we seeing increased interest in specialized learning, or are we seeing most of the graduates are veering off and saying, you know, let me just try out something different? What do you make out of the graduation trends, Doctor?
Yes, what we see is a balance of both, because what we're seeing is the economy is increasingly demanding for higher degrees, that's diploma and masters and PhD. And as we move towards 2030, one of the pillars of Vision 2030 is developing Kenya into a knowledge-based economy, knowledge intensive, which means that we need evidence, that we need information, that we need research skills, that we need data collection, data management skills. And so as we grow as a country, we need, those are areas that we need to invest in, that we have to have more. You've seen some people carrying out opinion polls and others saying, okay, it was not done properly. This has to do with, as a country, how well do we value the information, the research that we undertake, and the ethics that goes with it. So we're going forward, for this country to really develop the next level, we need knowledge-intensive individuals, systems, structures, capabilities of handling large amounts of data. As you can see, the university sector is large, so you need to make sense of what is going on there. And in the past, we've made policies. The link between research and policy making has been a weak link. So what has happened then is that we have made policies, based on populism and that kind of stuff. But what we need now is for us to make policies that are based on evidence, that are based on data and information. And this is what we are attempting to do by launching this book, that this is how the university sector looks like. Somebody else will look at, this is how the oil sector looks like. This is how our basic education looks like. And then based on what you see, the trends over the last 10 years, then you are able to make more informed decisions at the policy level. So this is what we think. And so that's why we think we need more training in masters and PhD. So if we are going to take, for example, if I was to say, we are graduating 400 PhDs per year. South Africa is graduating 5,000 every year. You can see in terms of publications, in terms of scientific publications, we are only publishing as a country 2,000 in peer-reviewed journals. South Africa is publishing 20,000, 10 times more. So really, and you can see the difference. And there is a very clear link between science and development, that if you really, for a country to grow, the amount of investment in research and higher level training, it correlates very well with economic growth. So otherwise what will end up happening, if you grow without building the necessary skills at the PhD and master's level, then you pretty much reach a dead end, because then you're not able to absorb all the dynamics that come with this new development. So it's very, very important that as we think about growing as a country, that we actually open up and have people that are able to analyze our complex, because the situation can only get more complex.
Right.
That we have people that can actually analyze those complex situations and give us a good way forward.
All right, Professor, I'm going to give you the last word on this one. Going forward, what should we expect in coming days, and how long before we can actually see these reforms in place?
First of all, the reforms do really continue. The government has actually committed by law in the Universities Act to commit 2% of the GDP towards research. That's a very, very big commitment by this government. So what we expect is realization of that as we go on from next year and in the next medium-term expenditure framework of government, to see that if that is actually implemented, it is going to cause a big, big change in terms of area of research. And it is actually known, and this is a fact, that for every dollar you put into research, and especially in the STEM subjects, that is science, technology, engineering, education, and mathematics, then out of the single dollar you put, or every shilling, you can actually get 7 shillings out of in the economy. So it's actually a part of the growth of the economy.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Professor Henry Thairu, the Chairman, Commission for University Education, and Dr. Eusebius Mukwana, who is the Deputy Commission Secretary for the Commission for University Education. Thank you both so much for joining us in this edition of Morning Express. Well, have you done your master's degree? Have you done your PhD, or are you pursuing it? What are you waiting for? Would like to know your state of education as well, if you can care to tell us about it, and tell us how important it is. The country today doesn't have plumbers. I remember seeing an ad somewhere that a company, an organization were looking for a plumber. And there's a shortfall of plumbers. So care to know about those areas that do need market demand, or that seek market demand, and find yourself a job if you do not have one. Let's take a short break. You're watching Morning Express. Still to come, we have quite a bit to talk about. The IEBC report, as well as the electoral reforms, and of course the capping of interest rates. Do stay with us.